Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to take a really fast-paced look into how one ancient text brilliantly structured a society's entire identity, its daily diet, and even its local economy. We're actually going to skip the usual agenda today and just dive straight into this foundational question. How did ancient Israelites actually define what it meant to be holy? Well, the answer might surprise you because it honestly wasn't just about religious rituals. It was deeply, intimately connected to what was on their dinner plates and what was in their wallets. Okay, let's get into it. Verse 2 really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. The dietary rules we're looking at today weren't just a bunch of random laws drawn out of a hat. They were a comprehensive blueprint for creating a totally unique, set-apart national identity. And that blueprint extended right down to the ancient menu. For edible land animals, they had a highly specific two-part formula. To be considered clean, an animal had to do two things: part the hoof and chew the cud. It's like a strict VIP list for dinner, and it brilliantly illustrates why certain animals were strictly off-limits. Take the pig, for example. It parts the hoof, but it doesn't chew the cud. Or the camel and the hare. They chew the cud, but they don't part the hoof. Missing even one of those traits? Bam, completely forbidden. Now, when it came to seafood, the formula in verses 9 and 10 was just as simple. A water creature simply needed fins and scales. Missing either one, yep, forbidden. It's just an incredibly practical way for ancient people to instantly categorize whatever they caught in their nets. So the text then looks up to the skies, prohibiting birds of prey, scavengers, and, interestingly enough, bats and creeping flying things. Regular fowls, totally fine. But tucked right at the very end of this section is a highly specific, very famous rule. Absolutely no boiling a young goat in its mother's milk. Actually, what's really fascinating here is the pragmatic instruction they had for animals that just died of natural causes. The Israelites couldn't eat them, right? They had to maintain that holy status we talked about, but rather than just wasting perfectly good meat, they were told to give it to a stranger or sell it to an alien. It's such a clever way to maintain strict separation while still keeping local trade flowing. And speaking of economics, verses 24 through 26 detail this brilliant loophole for long-distance travelers. Imagine carrying a heavy harvest all the way across the country. Super impractical, right? So the law let them convert it into cash, travel light, and then buy whatever they wanted when they arrived. The text even explicitly says to buy oxen, sheep, wine, or, get this, strong drink, just to celebrate with their household. But here is the crucial pivot in verse 28. Every 3 years, the entire system completely shifted gears. Instead of that big travel celebration, the economic output had to stay purely local. And here's why keeping it local was so absolutely vital. During that third year, the beneficiaries of this tithe were the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. This was essentially a remarkable ancient welfare program, ensuring that the absolute most marginalized people were fed and directly cared for by their own community. Which brings us to our final takeaway. These rules, they were about so much more than just a diet. They were literally building a community from the ground up. And it leaves us with a really profound question. If an ancient society's holiness was measured by how it fed its most vulnerable, how does our modern world measure up? Thanks so much for joining This Explainer. Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.